All right, good afternoon. Thank you for joining livebordernews.com. This is Jonathan Alexander reporting. And today I have Tony Roman and Kirk Pendergrass from Kirk's Law Corner. Tony Roman owns Basilicos Pasa Avino. I think I'm saying that right. And Tony, I think we got you live on the air right now. Would you mind introducing yourself?
I'm with you guys, man. It's an honor to be with you both.
So we were discussing. Yeah, yep. we were discussing a lot of the stuff that happened out there to you during the mask mandates, and I'd love for you to share with the viewing audience here today. I know yesterday when we did our interview, it was pretty broke up.
Yeah, I'll do it again. Yeah, I can do it again.
Yep, I'd appreciate it.
Do you want me to start?
Yes, sir.
Sure. So when I first heard about lockdowns coming to China, I thought, you know what? That's what they do in China, right? That's what they do. Hey, if they want to accept it, that's on them. And then I heard the first lockdown in America was going to be in San Francisco, and I thought, you know what? In San Francisco, there doesn't seem to be a communist policy up there. They don't love. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So when that happened, I said, but then when I heard, it was very sad for me because it was still, in the United States. I thought, man, lockdown is not a word that we should use here. That's not a word we should even recognize. That doesn't happen here. So we weren't built to lock down. So then when I heard that they were going to pose a lockdown in our state, I said, not here, not on my watch. Because the first people that I thought about was our founding fathers. And the risks that they made, the sacrifices that they made, and then I thought about our military heroes that have sacrificed so much. A lot of them making the ultimate sacrifice. I think about the men who stormed Normandy Beach. I think about those men all the time, almost every day. And I said, I'm not going to dishonor them. I'm going to honor them, and I'm going to stand up and fight. And I had been ready for this fight. I was ready for this for so long. So when I heard it was going to happen, and I had a restaurant to commit as a battleground, I looked up to the sky and I said, thank you, God, for the opportunity. I'm so excited, for this. I wasn't upset about it. I was excited to go into battle with these guys. So we initially put a flag out that said, the Don't Tread on Me flag, the Gadsden flag, to signal to the community that we were going to stand up and fight. And I pledged our business. I told our young staff, it's all guys, it's all men, young men. I said, look, we're gonna dedicate this place as a constitutional battleground. It's not a business anymore. It's more than that. And if it was just a plot of dirt with a door on it, I would have done the same exact thing. But so we waged war, and we didn't just defy, but we went on the attack. We were on the offense. And we banned masks. You couldn't wear a mask even on the property outside when you tried to walk in. If you walked on the boundary of the property line of the restaurant, we wouldn't let you in. When they did the vaccine mandates, we had a sign up that said you had to prove that you were unvaccinated, to get in. That was our way of slapping back. When they did the curfews, we publicly extended the hours. When they did all these mandates, we put billboards up in L.A. There's a movie called The Godfather. Hopefully you guys have seen it. There's a famous line: "Leave the gun, take the cannoli." We did our own take on that, whereas "Leave the mask, take the cannoli." We put a giant 48-foot billboard in the heart of L.A. just to kind of stick it to them, And then we did it when they did the vaccine mandates. We did the same thing in Venice Beach, which is another liberal bastion. I said, "Leave the vax, take the cannoli." People's heads exploded everywhere. So we were doing this, and we were doing it openly and boldly and loudly, making sure that they understood that we weren't going to take any shit, So what happened was around 2020, at the end of 2020, by that point, we were getting death threats by the hundreds every day. People were calling, threatening they wanted to kill me and my staff, burn the restaurant down, spread viruses inside. It was crazy. We got hit by the city, the county, the state, everybody, OSHA, the feds, Hollywood, the media, everybody was after us. which we didn't have a problem with. We enjoyed it, so we ran into the battle, not away from it. But when OSHA showed up in the end of December, around December 2020, they came. They tried getting in. We didn't let them in for inspection because they were doing it based on this COVID BS. And we said, it's not going to happen. You don't have any authority over us. We're not going to recognize you, and we're not going to even acknowledge you. So they left, and they said, well, you know what? We're going to come back with the cops, and we're going to come back with a warrant. They went and got a signed warrant. They came back with the cops, and we still stonewalled them. We said, you're not getting in. So they left, and they threatened fines. And suddenly, last Monday, it's been almost 3 years, we get a notice from the bank saying in our operating account that keeps our business, floating. It's hard to run a restaurant. The profit margins are very, very, very thin. You're lucky if you break even. But we get a notice saying that you have a zero balance. And we're like, what the hell is going on? So we checked it out, and OSHA went in and raided the accounts and seized our money. So we're dealing with that now. That's our next battle, and that's where we are now.
Wow.
Yep.
OSHA came in and seized your bank accounts.
That's right. OSHA, it's Cal OSHA. So Cal OSHA is superseded by the feds. OSHA, the federal program of OSHA that oversees it. And a lot of times when Fed OSHA puts their guidelines in place, Cal OSHA or the different states that implement their own, they can then add to it and make them, they can add additional guidelines. They can get even crazier than the Fed. But they have to submit it, whatever their guidelines are per state. They then have to submit those to Fed OSHA to get approval. It's Cal OSHA, and then Cal OSHA works through the Department of Industrial Relations with the state here, and then they use EDD, which is the Employment Development Department, I think, to do the collections, because the EDD, they're the ones that collect payroll taxes, so they know where you bank, and they have the mechanism in place to levy the accounts. But when we looked at when we looked through everything, it was clear that we didn't have any due process at all. And apparently, what they said they can do is they don't need to offer that. They just basically have it rubber stamped by a judge. Well, I looked at the judgment, which I was never aware of, and the judgment is in a courthouse with a judge that was appointed by the Chief Justice of California, who was appointed by Newsom, who I call Gavin Pelosi. So she's a radical leftist. So it's all linked back to him, and he knew who we were all along. People were calling his office. People on the left, the enemy was always contacting him, telling him, asking him, please shut this place down, shut this place down, shut this place down. And we recorded the whole interaction when the guy showed up to serve the warrant from OSHA. We recorded it, and the guy admits on camera that we were targeted. He says it. He says it twice, I think.
Wow.
So that's where we're at. And to be clear, we've never acknowledged the enemy in this regard when it came to the COVID stuff. We even if, like, people ask me, well, did you get served properly? Well, did you see the judgment? Did you get to go to court? I said, you don't understand. Even if they did all those things right, I still wouldn't acknowledge it. I would have still said, F you, I don't acknowledge you, I don't know who you are, stay away.
Exactly. Yeah, Tony, we need to definitely. What's the name of that gentleman that did all this again?
The man that served the warrant, his name was Tim, Tim Decker, D like David, E like Edward, C like Charlie, K like Kevin, E like Edward, R like Robert. Tim Decker.
Okay, and the guy that's the guy with OSHA, is that correct?
That's the guy with OSHA that served the warrant. Yep.
With OSHA.
And we beat him down pretty good. I mean, he walked away with his tail between his legs. He actually, he started out beating his chest. We're here to serve a warrant with the police, and he left saying, "How about if I just hand you a little bag of masks? Would you at least accept those?" I mean, that's what we reduced him to. And I said, you could leave him on the patio, but they're going to go right in the trash. So that was the end of that.
So this all has to do with pretty much the mask mandate and them going against you for not honoring
Well,
the mandate.
it's the mask mandate, but it's also all their regulations that they have. I mean, they wanted us to put protocols in place, safety protocols in place, signage all over the place. The vaccine mandates. I mean, they wanted us to go through jump through hoops, and we weren't going to do anything. Our restaurant remained vintage America from day one. March 19th, 2020 is when they shut down the state. And when you walked into our restaurant, you'd feel like you're 1950. I mean, nothing changed. We did everything the same. Nothing. No, absolutely nothing changed. No one ever put a mask on. We didn't allow them inside. It was like when you walk in, you would never have known that there was even a lockdown.
Yeah. Well, I think I mentioned this the other day. We had Robert Hall out here at the Great American Pizza in Golden Valley, Arizona. He actually fed our people's convoy when we were coming through this area on our way to Washington, D.C. And he went through this almost identical thing of what what you're dealing with right now. And he got threats, everything else, threatened to go to jail. I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
And, but my hat's off to you, brother, for standing strong, for not having any tolerance for this corrupt government. And we've got to find a way to beat this.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is that I never play the role of the victim. Like, I never tell people, oh, what I'm going through is, and I don't want people to say, oh, I'm sorry that this happened to you. No, this has to happen because it builds awareness and then it enables us to fight. So it's better, it's almost better when the enemy fires at you, because then you know who the enemy is. So I don't have a problem with it. We just have to fight it and defeat it and clean things up, and that's how we do it.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of like, I remember you telling me about your flagpole incident, and I mean, good for you for staying the heck with you. And
well, the flagpole incident is in relation to the landlord. We have a Chinese landlord who basically turned on me at the beginning of the lockdowns. He didn't like what I stood for, so I hung a big 18-foot American flag off the side of his building in front of our restaurant just to stick it to him. And then he came after us, trying to get us. He never shows his face. He sends his attorneys, he sends his property managers to do his dirty work. They've tried evicting us like 3 different times. They got the city to jump in and help them. They coordinated efforts to try to throw us out. We stood our ground. The flag's still up. And then when they finally begged to end the battle, they basically came to us saying, you know what, we don't want to fight anymore. I made it clear to him, the only way I'm going to stop fighting you is if you now, because you've disrespected the American flag, you now have to put a flagpole, 40-foot flagpole, in your property, in the ground of your property, and we're going to raise a huge flag properly on a pole. And for me, that's like the greatest example of planting the flag of victory, because that is going to insult him even more to put it in his property. So that's what I'm trying to make happen now.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, Kirk, what would you suggest in this kind of a circumstance?
Well, the first fundamental principle of due process of law is notice and opportunity to respond. So this is where I talk about lawful notification letters. So, like some of the things you're discussing there, the landlord, whatever, sending over his attorneys and stuff, hand him a lawful notification letter. Put him on notice of the law and how he's trespassing the law, and to cease and desist. That's a civilized society. How we should do that is, again, the first step of due process of law. Right. And that way, if anything does go to court, you can say, well, I put him on notice here. I mean, is this man of sound mind, or is he insane? I gave him notice, told him to knock it off, and now we're here in court and having to battle this out. So, here's the law I put him on notice of, and I don't know why he's doing what he's doing, but if they're, claiming a cause of action against you yourself or your business, whatever, and you say, hey, I'm going to move for dismissal here for failure to state a claim for which relief can be granted, and I'd like to collect my costs and fees for having to defend this frivolous action.
Right. Now, are we talking about OSHA, or are we talking about the guy with the flag? The China
Anybody.
guy?
Anybody. Yeah, anybody.
Anyone,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
So like in
Just
your, for
clarify.
example, in, if it were me, had OSHA coming in like that, I'd be like, well, who are you? You better properly identify yourself. I want to know what your name is and what you're acting in an official job capacity here. Okay. Show me some ID. Properly identify yourself, because that would be failure to identify for a governmental agency, an agent, not to properly identify themselves. That's supposed to be applying to them. Again, statutes are for government civil conduct. It's supposed to be for them. So, and then, one of our rights, the right to petition, dictates that we go to the legislature for the redress of grievances. So if we have an issue with the executive branch, say, hey, these guys are acting outside their scope and authority, and they're violating due process of law, that goes to the legislature for the legislature to do an investigation to see if they've exceeded the laws of its creation. And if they're exceeding the laws of their creation, one, this is how you remove their immunity from being sued.
Right.
I was just doing, I'm performing my official duties right here. And well, no, that's not within your official capacity. Now you break them down into an individual capacity, and now you can sue him as man versus man, because he comes out from underneath that umbrella of protection. And that's when we get them.
Got it. Yeah, because if we can do something to apply pressure to them, to basically draw them out and hit them in, from different angles, to the point where they just figure, God, you know what, this time we messed with the wrong, with the wrong group, and we don't need this. Let's just close the file, give him back his money, and move on. Because this could become, if we can entangle them in this would become a story they don't want.
Exactly.
Well, and that's it. To quote Edmund Burke, or relatively quote him, is for evil men, the only thing for evil men to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And that's where we're at. A maxim of law, a lazy man loses. So when are the people going to get off their lazy butts, read the Declaration of Independence, read the supreme law of the land, the Constitution for the United States of America, read their state constitution, learn their rights, and some of those rights dictate process. But the whole Constitution itself is nothing but law of the land, which is due process of law. So when are the people going to start educating themselves? Because ignorance of the law is no excuse. You can't claim that you don't know. And let me tell you, these people will prey on our ignorance.
Exactly.
If you don't know, they'll walk right all over you.
Oh, exactly.
So
Tony,
knowledge is power. If you don't have the knowledge, you have no power. How are you going to defend yourself? Let's say you wanted to become a boxer, step into a boxing ring. Okay, and you go in there with your local semi, I wouldn't say professional, but let's just keep it real. A guy that's been in there for, say, 3 years boxing in the ring. You're new. No training in boxing, know nothing about boxing, and you're going to step in the ring with this guy. How good you going to do? You didn't get
right.
piss knocked out of you.
Well, they call it the sweet science for a reason. If you don't know the science, you're going to get knocked out.
That's right.
Yeah. So this is the thing. We're going into battle. And, our tongues are sharper than a double-edged sword. Well, how are you going to speak the law? How are you going to wield the sword if you don't have the knowledge?
Exactly.
Going into battle, you're going to get creamed. You're going to get wiped out. So the people need to get educated. They need to read. And nobody else is responsible for our own education but us. We can't blame anybody but ourselves. So I appreciate men like Tony over here wanting to stand up and do something. And it's, he's trying to talk with me and learn from me. And I think we're going to have a little private chat stuff and maybe do a little education and see what we can't come up with.
I like it.
Hey, Tony, if you don't mind my asking,
Yeah.
You have a lawyer right now involved.
No,
No,
I don't.
You don't.
I have
You don't
I have a friend. I have a friend that I trust, and I'm considering discussing this opportunity with him, and pairing him with Kirk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this would be, again, this is a prime example of there's no due process. There's no rights for we as people. This is where the government does everything in their power to take all of our rights and our freedom from us. It should be your right, by the way. It should be your God-given right. If you want to stay open through COVID, your guest is quite aware of COVID. If they choose to come to your establishment, knowing where you stand on it, the government should have no say-so in this matter at all.
That's right. Especially since we never had, we've never even had violations from the county health. I mean, never. We were never found in violation. We were only found the ABC, which is the Alcohol Beverage Board here. They issue the liquor license, which are very valuable and hard earned. And even then, they tried. They actually filed a criminal case against us. They filed all kinds of stuff, threatened to revoke, our license. I mean, they were in there all the time, and they were doing sting operations, undercover operations, and we stood up to them. And when they had their court dates, I didn't even show up. Like I said, I'm not going to acknowledge you, in this matter. And I didn't show up. And in fact, when I didn't show up, I would do public videos, mocking them and shaming them and taunting them and educating them. And they threatened, stomped their feet and everything else, and nothing happened. So, so OSHA, I think the reason why OSHA waited 3 years is because they knew that if they tried this stuff during the heat of the battle, when all this attention was on us and on me fighting, it would have been a huge story immediately, and they didn't want that. So they waited for it to die out, die down. People turn their attention to other things after 3 years. No one's really paying attention anymore, and they'll do it now, in a more low-key way. Because again, if they had done it then, it would have been, there would have been fury everywhere. So they picked their spot, and that's why they did it now. I think that's what I believe. Other people seem to think because they're considering bringing back these mandates again, or trying or testing it, that they want to maybe wipe us out first because of all the noise that we're going to make and all the people that will maybe inspire to stand up this time.
Exactly.
They don't want that. I mean, we've become like a fortress for freedom. We have people, like I explained the last time we were on. People come from everywhere. I mean, we had wait times during the thick of it of 5.5 hours long. People trying to get in because they just wanted to be part of the fight. They want to be part of this historic time. And I get letters and emails and phone calls and visits from people around the world, not just here. And they drive from everywhere. We had people flying in just for the day so they could eat and turn around and go home. Wealthy people who were flying from out of state. People were coming from the East Coast. They said, "Yeah, I just landed at the local airport. Me and my wife are here to eat. We're getting back on our plane. We're going home. We just wanted to be here for this, and support you." Yeah. So it was pretty amazing time, and they didn't want to be featured in any of the stories that were happening at that time. So they were laying low, but now they think it's going to be easy for them. So we have to draw awareness to this because this could happen to anybody.
Yes. Tony, you want to tell the viewing audience where your restaurant is located?
Yeah, so we're in Huntington Beach, California. That's another thing I want to bring up, actually. There's a lot of people here celebrating that the city council of Huntington Beach, I don't know if you heard the story, they passed an ordinance or a policy that is now banning the government from imposing mask mandates and vax mandates in public places. No, in official buildings like city buildings, stuff like that. And people are all excited. They're clapping and they're sending me the story and they're so excited about it. And it really upsets me because I say to them, "Wait a second, the government locked you down because they said they were trying to protect you, and now you're upset about it. But now you're happy because the government is telling you that we're here to protect you again. You don't need the government to tell you whether you can or can't refuse these vaccines or wearing a mask. You don't need their help. You don't need them to tell you that it's okay. All you're doing is by cheering them, you're emboldening them even further. It really pisses me off. I'm enraged over it. The way people react, they're still not getting it, and that's why we're losing. I don't know if you've seen the movie 300. The guys, the Spartans. When they fought the 300, there's a reason why they kept it at 300, because those were the only 300 who knew how to fight and what they were fighting for. They didn't want a weak link in the chain. So it's almost like better if these people that think they're fighting and think they're standing up, and think they believe in the fight, to just step aside, stand behind us, because we don't need them. They actually make us weaker.
That's exactly how I feel sometimes with me and my men that are working on the border. We feel like we're the 300.
Yeah, well, you are. Like I told you last time, there's nothing more important than the border. Without borders, language, culture, we don't have anything. We don't have a country. So what you're doing is the most heroic of all. That's everything begins and ends there.
Yeah, amen.
That's why I respect you so much. Go ahead.
By the way, Tony, your restaurant, when I was out there, you got an amazing restaurant, by the way.
Thanks, buddy.
Your food is top notch, and I've got to say it was the most cleanest restaurant I have been in years.
Well, I want to tell you, I don't know if I mentioned this last time. I wasn't in the restaurant business. I was in the security business, actually, the investigations business. I did a lot of stuff for high-profile clients, and I built that restaurant as a gift to my mother, as a tribute to her, because she had one for 18 years. It's all her food, all her recipes, I thought that she needed a nicer place, so I closed on her other place. I opened this one up. I designed it and built it for her. I gifted it to her. I said, "Mom, enjoy it." I put in systems and management, and hopefully it would run itself, and so she could just enjoy it. And I didn't expect to be a part of it after I built it, but you become close to the community, close to your staff. And I built it for her, and she enjoyed it for almost 6 years. She just passed away end of March, which I'm still devastated and brokenhearted over it. It's hard to even function at times. Yeah, man. Yeah, thanks. And I miss her so much. But she got to see me fight. She used to always say how proud she was, and as sick as she was, when people would ask her, "Hey, Rose, what keeps you going?" And she would say, "I always want to see what Tony's gonna do next." She loved to watch the fight from the sidelines. I mean, she was up close. She got to see it. I would sit with her, and we'd have talks about it, and I'd tell her what I was going to do next. And she was always worried sick, but she believed in me. She always said, "You know what you're doing. You know what you're doing." So, I have to keep it going now, in honor of her. And my fight is to honor her too. And when OSHA comes and they try to shut us down the way they're doing and stealing money from us, valuable resources that we need to keep it open, it is again an insult not only to me but to the memory of my mother. And if she's looking down, I know she's pissed. So that's another reason that just fuels my fire, because I do a lot of it for her, and she was a patriot more than you know. In fact, we're at the cemetery. I made sure the spot I picked was right underneath an American flagpole. Like right underneath it, like where she's laying, she's like facing it, looking up at it, and it's just it's a special spot.
Yeah, that's how I want my funeral to be, right under a flagpole.
Amen, man. Amen.
Tony, I want to organize and get a group of people out there to Huntington Beach. Come on out and just spend the day with you guys and just show our support for you guys. And so I'm asking everybody, especially out here viewing today, I'm going to go ahead and announce a time and a date for everybody to get together and show up out there. And Tony, do you have the address handy? You can give these
I would love that, man. I would love that. Yeah, the address is 21501 Brookhurst Street, Brookhurst Street, and that's in Huntington Beach. And you can't miss it. There's a big, giant American flag in front of the building, draped off the front, and then you'll see 3 flags, smaller flags, hanging in front. One is a Marine flag, a U.S. Marine flag. One is a U.S. Army flag, and in the middle we had designed a custom anti-woke flag that just says in big bold letters "anti-woke" flying in front of the restaurant, and we're getting heat for that too now. So that's okay.
I love it.
That's
I
all right.
love it.
Yeah,
I love
man.
everything. I love everything you guys are doing, Tony.
Thanks,
And
buddy.
you guys are remaining open, correct?
Of course. Come on. You think we've ever let them shut us
I
down?
know that's
And
a dumb question. Knowing you, Tony,
Yeah.
you probably told them to go piss on themselves.
That's never gonna. Yeah, it's not gonna happen, man. We're not shutting down for anybody. Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah, man. Yep.
But we'll help get it organized, and we'll bring out hundreds of people out there to support you.
Well, if we get that flagpole put in the ground, man, when we raise it, we'll have a ceremony. You guys got to be there for that.
You got it. We'd be honored to be.
Got to be there for that. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it, guys.
Well, Tony, I appreciate you being on our show today. And
I love.
And sorry for the breakup the other day. I was actually at the IHOP restaurant having breakfast in a meeting. We were doing the interview, so it was kind of noisy already for me.
Hope the food was good. Hope the pancakes were good.
Well, it was mediocre, but
I love pancakes, man. I wish I was there with you.
But other than that, I'd love to have you out here for the Kerry Lake event that we're doing on the 17th coming up.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I wish I could be there. Where in Arizona is that going to be?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Where in Arizona is that going to be? Where in
That's
Arizona?
being held in Lake Havasu, Arizona.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So we'll be there 17th through I think the 21st.
Boy, that's going to be hot, huh?
Yeah, but it's going to be a huge crowd coming in for this.
And the event is for what exactly?
So right now this is the Constitution Week that we're doing there.
Uh-huh.
And then on top of it, we got some good news the other day with the Supreme Court ruled in Kerry Lake's favor on part of the case.
Got it.
They're going to allow her case to be heard now.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a lot of steps, a lot of good things happening here right now.
Got it. And that's another thing I want to talk to you about. You know, do we have time? Do we have a few minutes?
Sir.
Yeah, especially with Kirk on. You know, I have a problem with people always waiting for a court to give them permission to do anything. You know, oh, let me wait to see what the court says. Oh, let me see what this, what this lawyer in a dirty robe tells me whether I can do something or not. You know, we need to defy the judges too. You know, because you know what? They're like Thomas Jefferson said, as a man, you're obligated to defy unjust laws. And if their judgment or ruling doesn't make any sense, we have to say to them, F you too. You know, because the left does it all the time and they get away with it. Why aren't we doing it?
100% agree.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the $1 million question. Why aren't people doing it?
Yeah. And Kirk, what are your thoughts on that?
Say that again. What are your
thoughts on that? Waiting for a judge to tell you what you can or you can't do. People are afraid to act. You know, waiting for the permission of basically a lawyer wearing a dirty robe telling you what you can and can't do. Like it's the the end all be all. I remember here in this state when they passed Prop 187. Do you guys remember that? It was the border proposition. When they had governor, it was a Republican governor. It was like 1980s, late 1980s. He was a Republican governor, and the people could see the writing on the wall of the illegal aliens coming through the country, and the people of California voted a proposition to stop all funding of public resources for illegal aliens, and they voted it in. The people had the will to vote it in, and it was approved. And because they saw that was the only way to save this state. It was clear that the left wanted the demographics to change, so you would never see a Republican governor ever again. And one single judge threw it out. One man, he was able to override the will of the people. One man. And since then, we've never seen a Republican governor since. We saw Arnold, but he wasn't really one. He really wasn't one. He was a celebrity. He was a fraud. But we haven't seen one since. And now it's totally controlled. The legislation here is totally controlled by the left. So my question to you again is, how do you feel about defying a judge?
Well, maxim of law here: a judge who exceeds his authority is not to be obeyed. So the thing is the claim and exercise of a right can't be converted into a crime. That's Miller versus U.S. on appeal. So that's already been asked and answered. If you have a right and you exercise that right, can that action be converted into a crime? So the answer is no. So fundamentally and principally, who is this so-called judge when he's not really a judge? A lot of people get that misinterpretation where we're talking about magistrates, which are servants. Oh,
got it.
Every single one of them in our Republican form of government are servants. We're the masters. The people are the masters. And we can just get to some fundamental basics here. Like, do you have to seek permission to go to the bathroom? Who would you have to seek permission from to do that? How about eating food? How about buying food? How about putting gas in your car? How about putting tires? I mean, think logically here. Just exactly whose permission do we need to seek to do anything? So if we don't possess this power, we can't delegate that power. And that's a maxim of law. What I cannot do in my person, I cannot do through the agency of another. In other words, if I can't do it, I can't get somebody else to do it for me. So logically, a judge is really, if we're going to claim that he's the judge, is more like a referee calling balls and strikes over here. And somebody has to make a demand for relief. And if there's no objection, or let's say there is an objection to that, okay, it's got to be argued. You got to present your facts, evidence. And then the magistrate would make the decision whether to grant relief or not. And then in our system, we've got, the right to appeal and to see whether or not that was denying justice, because we have the right to have justice without sale, denial, or delay. And if he denies justice, well, the law, supreme law of the land and law of the land, says that these judges or magistrates, they're only allowed to sit there so long as they act in good behavior. Is that good behavior, denying justice? Is it good behavior when they try to dictate to us what we have to do? No, it is not. That's exceeding his authority. They have no authority to say, oh, you have to do this or you have to do that. I mean, that's what that sounds like. That sounds like an employer-employee relationship, which means you better be paying me. So think about that.
I love it.
As long as you need. If you got somebody who's ordering you around, you better be collecting a paycheck.
Got it.
Well,
I love it.
Well said, Kirk.
Well said. Yep, absolutely. Thank you for that. Well, I enjoyed this, I can tell you.
Well, we're going to enjoy working with you and
Thanks, John.
help and support you, brother. I mean, we're going to make this happen.
Good. Well, I appreciate you, man, having the interest to invite me on, and I loved meeting you in person when I met you. I knew when I looked in your eyes and shook your hand. You're a man's man. You're a true patriot, and he is, man. He is. Yep. Thank you for that. I respect you a lot. So anything I can do to help you, you let me know.
Well, that goes both ways.
I know. I feel it. Thanks, guys.
You betcha.
Yeah, the thing about all this, like if you're going to stand up, see, when you do this and you follow all of the steps of due process of law and you shut this down, it shuts it down for everybody.
Yes.
Like
that's why I want to do it.
Fight just enough to shut it down for themselves.
No, exactly.
Like, once you get it shut down for yourself, it's only another step or two to shut it down for everybody.
Exactly.
If they couldn't do it to you, they can't do it to anybody else.
That's right.
So
That's my point.
This is one of the biggest realities that we all need to pay attention to. Is really, even Trump says this. Well, somebody ought to sue these people. Well, if you start suing them, one man, one business in this instance starts, pushing back and starts becoming the plaintiff, because there's another maxim of law. The defendant, by pleading or exception, becomes the plaintiff. When you turn the tables and start becoming the plaintiff, and you start going after them, and you start shutting them down, this does it for everybody else.
That's right. That's why I want to do it. Man, you just get it, Kirk.
No. Yeah. And I want to touch on the very good point that you made earlier about, you get people in there that think they're standing up. They think they know. I get their heart. Their heart is in it. I really get that. But the fact is they go in, they don't know the law. They don't know how to do proper paperwork. They don't know how to effectively defend themselves. They don't know how to argue, make the proper arguments supported by facts and evidence. And what happens is just exactly the opposite, but applying the same principle as the other side wins. And so everybody else says, well, so-and-so went and tried, and see how they got railroaded, and, they're violating our rights. And well, because they didn't do it right. They didn't make the proper arguments. They didn't cite the proper law and bring forth the law that supports their claims. And so what it does, it makes everybody else go, well, why should I even try? Because so-and-so tried. And this kind of gets into that whole case precedence thing. And we give so much creed to a judicial opinion, because that's all they are, is just opinions. I don't know how many people realize that. They're all just opinions. It's not law, because the judicial branch doesn't have the power to make law. We call it case law, but let's call it what it really is. It's the law of the case, and only applies to the parties in that case, because everything's about contracts. And that's just a resolution on a contract. If you're not a party to the contract, how does it apply to you?
Wow.
That just totally destroys the whole stare decisis, case law. Common law is case law. Sure, in England, but we're not in England. We're in America here.
That's right. Well,
we're,
nobody understands these laws better than Kirk. I'll say that, but I mean, you've got it nailed.
I was going to say, where did you find this man?
Known Kirk for many years.
Wow.
The first time was on the Capitol steps.
Yeah?
Yep.
Right.
In DC, you mean?
No, right here in Idaho.
Oh, Idaho. Wow.
Yep.
What part of Idaho are you in?
Boise.
Nice. Yeah, I think you mentioned that last time.
Right downtown at the Capitol.
Got it.
Literally a stone's throw away from the Capitol.
That's where we need you. As close to the Capitol as possible.
That's right. And within this little area right by the Capitol there, not only do we have our Idaho Supreme Court, but we also have the Federal District Court just a few blocks over from there. So for me, things are really close by, and I get that it makes it real easy for me to, go file paperwork and do this stuff. So, where other people's in other states and stuff, they have, sometimes miles and miles to travel just to get there.
Now we got to find a way to transport you quickly and directly to Sacramento.
Yeah, I think Jonathan mentioned that the last time, was that maybe we'll make a trip over there, because that's not too far away from where we'll be.
Yeah. So, yeah. That'd be amazing. I mean, if we could do that, that would be great. I would love to see you here. And then if we have to figure out, a way to fight this thing, and if we determine what the next steps are, and you need to go to Sacramento, we can figure that out too. Yeah.
Now I have a good friend of mine, Tony Pellegrino. He's a co-founder of American Common Law Academy, which I kind of joined with them to begin with back in the day. And then I started my own thing here, Kirk's Law Corner LLC. But him and I are going to do a live on this coming Monday. So I'm going to put that plug in here. I already did the preliminary stuff last Monday, a little over, almost 2 weeks ago now, doing the setup of the law stuff and trying to, get people to learn what their right of conscience, which is religion, is the liberty of conscience. We get the right to think for ourselves, to secure our own safety. These are rights of man. Okay. So again, this goes back to learning your rights, but on this upcoming Monday, 9/11, Tony's going to join me for Monday Night Law, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this same exact stuff about remedy and relief. What's due process of law here? What can we do? Lawful notification letters. I mean, you can even go file a Title 42, 1983. You can add in there a federal question. Is this constitutional or not? You can get a motion for temporary or to a permanent injunction to, I don't know, keep your, the guys that came in and shut down your OSHA there, came in and shut down your bank accounts and stuff. You can give a permanent injunction for them to stay away from you, and they can't do anything to you ever again. Right? Because they've already trespassed on common law trespass, your rights. So therefore, that's grounds to permanently trespass them from trespassing again.
Got it.
Because that's what it is. It's a common law trespass because our rights come from God. Our natural rights are our property. Property is defined as an aggregate of guaranteed rights. Those are those unalienable rights. You can't place a lien upon them, which means hold them as property and for some debt that we seem to owe. No. That's, our founders made it very adamant that we have natural rights that are unalienable, not civil rights from the Roman civil law, the code, which are privileges granted by the king. That's the part of that fundamental ideological conflict between Catholicism and Christianity. So under the monarch versus American common law.
Got it. Man, that's interesting.
Right?
Mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. I love it.
Right?
Well, we definitely need to get your guy and Kirk together.
I will. Yeah. When we hang up, if you can connect me with Kirk, cell phones, if you don't mind, Kirk, that'd be great.
And we got a couple questions on here. We got Timothy Forbes asked a question. Would that approach require the case it initiated to be closed first?
Absolutely not. Now, the second they trespass upon your rights, that's gives you standing to claim a right to a cause of action. Now, what actions are you going to take? If you're going to take some actions, don't you think you should follow the process that is due? Absolutely, because then you're violating their rights to due process of law. See, due process of law, the right to due process of law works both ways. So while many people out here claim that, well, they're violating our rights to due process of law, the second that you don't follow or we don't follow due process of law, we're doing exactly the same thing that they're doing, violating their right to due process of law.
I'm reading a couple other comments here real quick. Let's see. Heidi Wood says, I'm amazed at how many people are okay with losing their freedom. I'm COVID vaccine free, and that those that took the jab multiple times should worry about the side effects. Many jabbed are dying because of the vaccine. Yeah, and we all, very well said, Heidi. I mean, we've got this happening every day. I mean,
but here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. With freedom, unfortunately, it gives people the right to be stupid. And if they want to get the vaccine, that's on them, right?
That's
freedom
right.
of choice.
Yeah, it's their choice. That's right.
Yeah, we just see how many people are dying that's been taking this vaccine, and I'll tell you what, I'll take my chances.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, 100%.
In fact, I won't even allow a hospital to draw blood on me nowadays, just because God knows what they might try to pull on you. I mean, that's where I'm at.
Yes.
And some say I'm over paranoid. Well, you know what? I'm a realist, and I
Hmm.
know exactly, that shit can happen.
Yes,
So I
absolutely.
Yeah.
trust no one is my motto.
Agreed.
So, well, guys, we're almost at an hour. It looks like, and they're probably, let's see, we got looks like 9 minutes and some odd seconds. Um, Again, I'd like to ask everybody to get out there to Tony's restaurant, Pacificos and Pasta Avino. I hope I said that perfectly clear this time.
You did well.
And then that's in Huntington Beach. Get on out there, enjoy some fine dining, enjoy some absolute wonderful food. And
And make sure when you come, you tell us that Jonathan and Kirk sent you.
yes, and but
We need
other
to
than
be
that,
supporting, good, lawful, constitutional minded patriot type businesses, because that's how we really show our support, is by supporting the business. And when you support a good business and not supporting the bad businesses that want to violate our rights and follow along with the corruption, they go out of business when they don't get customers and they don't get support.
That's
That's
so interesting.
capitalism, folks.
Yep, that's so interesting. What amazes me is how many people came to us during the lockdowns and said, "I can't believe these other restaurants I used to go to, they're helping the enemy wage tyranny on us by having temperature checks and vaccine passports required and masks and this and that, and they have waiters that are shielded up and triple masked and everything else." And as soon as it all ended, these people ran back to those restaurants again and
Yeah.
supported them.
Right.
you
Now,
know, Tony, my
something
favorite
that
my favorite phrase always was, "If you can smell a fart through the mask, trust me, it's not working."
something
Yeah,
that we should touch on here real quick is before we
yeah,
went live here, is
yeah.
Tony was asking about cases and stuff, and I have had 2 cases where I did not wear a mask going in, and I fought it
Uh-huh.
and won both of them.
Mm.
This will be in part what we'll be discussing on the remedy and relief, right? I got charged with trespassing. Well, it has to be a lawful condition upon entrance. And then, of course, I get into the science, right? Prove it. Prove that stuff. You're claiming this such and such thing exists. I'm not using certain words to protect your channel there, Jonathan. But, when somebody, the science, right, is going to say, well, this thing exists, prove it, which is what I did. And I demanded proof from Idaho Department of Health and Welfare. And I got the response back that says, oh, no such records exist.
No.
Well, if
Wow.
there's no proof or evidence of this thing existing, how can you take any action under something that doesn't exist?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is in part what I used right before going to trial, judicial notice, because there was a motion in limine down there trying to keep me from talking about that. Excuse me. And I said, well, wait a minute. This is a matter of public record. And the jury has the right to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Absolutely. Because the motion in limine say they want to limit us from talking about certain things. And, I did the paperwork. I objected to it. I made my arguments, cited the public records request number. This is a matter of public record. The jury has every right to know this, as well as, your code regarding businesses under trespass. It specifically states in there, it must be a lawful condition upon it, not legal. See, this is where people get confused. Well, what do you mean? It's one and the same. No. Lawful means full of law. Right, says the law, or law of the land. Legal means contracts.
Interesting.
I don't have a contract. I didn't have a contract with Dragonfly. I didn't have a contract with Great Clips. Sure, there might be like a tacit thing to go in, but there's no actual legitimate legal contract. So there's no legal construct for them to have any kind of authority over me because I'm not bound by their policy.
Got it.
Policy is not law. Never can be construed as law unless you're bound by it. And then you got, pursuant to the statutes at large regarding fraud, which fraud will vitiate an entire contract. It's not lawfully obtained. There are different elements to a lawfully obtained contract, but I know I'm getting way off. But the thing is 2 cases dismissed by the prosecutors after doing the paperwork, forcing the showdown and saying, look, yeah, I would love to go to a trial by jury on that. They didn't want to do that.
What about from this perspective? I've often said when people try to argue the science with me, I tell them I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, because for me, science never dictates freedom. For me, show me where in the Constitution where it says you can be free if the science says that you can be a free man. So I never go there with the science, but I understand what you're trying to accomplish here. You're building the awareness and just stacking it in there to continue to build your case, right?
Right. But the thing is if we're going to talk about, somebody, agency, whatever, trying to protect us, our general welfare, which that's being misconstrued, because it doesn't reach that far. It's supposed to be working the other way. They're actually supposed to be under the general welfare clause, and the commerce clause is to regulate corporations, manufacturers who manufacture a product that may cause injury, loss, or harm to the people. Because, right, it's supposed to be of the people, by the people, for the people. Not of the corporations, by the corporations, for the corporations. No, we're supposed to be under the general welfare clause, delegated power to Congress to regulate foreign and interstate commerce against manufacturers who might manufacture a product that hurts us. That's the general welfare clause. So are they doing that? Absolutely not. They have failed miserably. So who's responsible for that? Well, according to congressional acts, that's a federal Food and Drug Administration, cosmetics, all that good stuff, right? Where are they on that? Do they approve this stuff? Are they approving this food to come across the borders and come into our United States of America here? Or, what's going on here? Well, who provides oversight? The legislature. The legislature provides oversight. Again, citing Hale versus Hinkle, there's a reserved right in the legislature to do an investigation to see if they've exceeded the laws of their creation. That's a power that belongs to the legislative branch, not the executive, because that is the executive. The executive branch is to execute the laws of its creation.
Yep.
The legislature does the investigations. Oh. Back to that Republican form of government and the letter of the law, that it is the way it is written, as it is written.
Yes.
Not my opinion. These are facts.
Yeah, me and you kind of discussed this, Kirk. This is why a lot of people lose their cases. They don't know the proper procedures of how to even present it to the courts for it to even be heard in the proper format. And that, if you're gonna go up against the government or anybody else, you better damn well know the proper procedures on how to even approach the matter.
Well, the way I see it is that people in the system now that try to fight things, they are so conditioned now to do it in sort of a narrow type of a way, where Kirk, to me, it's almost like he's doing it in a way that's so outside the box. It's outside the box of the way people think.
Yeah,
right?
But it works. Yeah. But it works.
People that have been caught up in the legal system for so long, they're just on that hamster wheel doing it the same way every single day. Then you got a guy like him who's like firing away, from a position they've never seen before and they're not ready for, and it just shakes everything up. And that's why I appreciate him.
Yeah, well, trust me, the courts don't want to see Kirk.
Yeah, that's my point. Yep, that's my point.
Even though it's written right there in our Declaration of Rights, in most state constitutions, which isn't really supposed to be part of the Constitution because it's a Bill of Rights. That's the law. And remember, Declaration of Independence says what? Governments are instituted among men, or that to secure these rights, government is instituted. So the Bill of Rights is laying down the law. Then the Constitution is the instrument of government, receiving their just powers under the consent of the governed. So where's the consent? Where's the delegation of power? Can you point to that emolument and grunt? I don't see it there. The power that you're claiming and exercising, I don't see that power delegated, and especially over man in the private. It just doesn't exist.
So good.
Because it comes in conflict with the fundamental principles of the laws of nature, that man is to be free and independent, free to do whatever he wants to do, freedom of choice, free to secure his own safety, free to acquire property, possess it, utilize it however he wants. We don't register our property, right? We don't give it up to somebody else. I don't seek permission from my neighbor nor any other set of men to utilize my property how I see fit. I don't need their permission. It's like any other right. So once we get to that a higher level of consciousness, an understanding of real laws of nature, the better off we will all be. Just saying.
The higher level of consciousness that when practicing law, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, that's just nailing it.
Right.
Well, and it's not even practicing. It's claiming and exercising.
Executing on it. Yep.
Yeah.
I love it.
I mean,
So
when
good.
you go to play baseball, do you practice or do you actually play the game?
You're playing the game. Yep.
Right. So when we go to court, are we practicing or are we really doing it?
Yeah. Yep.
We would call perfecting our claims.
Yeah. And the word practicing makes me nervous,
That's
especially
a law
when
term.
especially when a doctor says it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, there's a good one. There's a good example. You go see the doctor and they're practicing medicine, supposedly.
Yeah.
They're actually practicing pharmaceutical drugs. It's none of it's medicine. But, hey, I can't figure out what's wrong with you, but here's a $500 bill. Now, let me apply that to, I used to run my own mechanic shop. All right. Let's say you bring your car to me and, I spent a couple days on dinking around trying to figure out what's wrong with it. And I can't figure out what's wrong with it. You come back and I'm like, okay, here's a $500 bill. I can't tell you what's wrong with it. Do you want to pay me?
You don't feel good about it.
I'm just practicing being a mechanic. I'm not a real mechanic. I'm just practicing.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Good point. Yeah.
So which is it? Are we actually doing the thing or are we just playing around? We're practicing.
Yeah. No, there's no effing around here.
Yeah, gotta love it. Well, guys, we're a little overtime here. I'd love to have both of you back on the show, Kirk.
Anytime.
Love to have you guys back on in the future here. And I think you nailed a lot of good pointers, Kirk. Thank you.
Thanks, Kirk.
And I appreciate you, Tony, more than you can imagine. And thank you for standing up and fighting the good fight for America.
Thanks, buddy. That really means a lot. And the same to you. We'll talk soon. All right, guys.
All right,
Have a good
guys.
day, brothers.
All
We'll see
right.
you
I
next.
appreciate you guys joining livebordernews.com. Again, get on out there to Tony's restaurant and support them. And we'll be creating an event coming up. And I'll be broadcasting the date and time for the live event. So until then, guys, appreciate you joining us. God bless all of you.
God bless.
God bless.